A T L U S. Atlas, more like at last I'm making another Megami Tensei Let's Play, am I right, fam? Yeah. Anyways, please enjoy this opening narration, it is pretty good. We are here playing Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei for the Super Famicom. Unlike my SMT1 Let's Play, I created a Episode 0, which I'm going to link to down below. In addition, I probably should have linked this in Episode 0, but I am also going to link the existing fan translations for the first two Megami Tensei novels, because those do exist, and for those that want to read them and have a little bit of background knowledge before getting into the game, that is an option available to you. They're not good, and it's weird because I feel like it's one of those things where I can't really tell if it's just the fact that the translation sucks, or if it's the fact that the actual source material's just bad and schlocky, but I kind of have a feeling it's like a mixture of both. So yeah, if you don't want to read weird 80s schlock horror, this recap at the beginning here honestly catches you up to speed pretty nice, and frankly, I kind of prefer this version of events because it leaves out some key details about the plot. Mostly the fact that our protagonist, Nakajima, is actually quite the asshole. He is not a likable protagonist at all. And that is kind of the point, I guess, of the books, is he's kind of a fuck-up, and he makes some mistakes, but, yeah, he's not the type of dude you'd want to spend a whole dungeon with, going through a dungeon crawler. And also, please look at this. This just seems like the most exciting part. Like, this is like, people were like, yo, fuck the Last Supper, we could be having more fun right now, and they just threw, like, the first breakfast or some shit. But yeah, we have our nice little mound here that the entire game is going to take place in. I actually don't know if this is like a real... Like, I don't know if this mound, or, like, the structure is based off something that's real. I have a feeling it probably is, knowing Atlas, but also, that's just me assuming things. I should actually Google that, like, right now. Isn't technology wonderful, folks? Yeah. Oh, well, the first thing that came up was the Megami Tensei wiki, so I'm going to assume that this does not exist. Anyways, hey, it's Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei. We're, just like the SMT1 Let's Play, we're just gonna go with, the default names here. Unlike most other SMT games, the actual canon names, if you want to refer to them as that, do exist within the game, because technically this was a licensed game, and these are pre-existing characters that we are role-playing as. Though granted, as you're about to see, this is... role-playing is going to be a very loose definition of the term. You know, the honest-to-God truth of the matter is this game is pretty light on narrative, and we're mostly going to be dungeon crawling throughout this little journey. Again, more on that in that Episode 0 I uploaded earlier. I kind of explained that, you know, SMT1 you go through, and it's kind of... You know, it's in line with what you'd think of a lot of RPGs being from the time, where you go through dungeons, you get to towns, and you have an overworld, and there's all that. This game is like 95% dungeon, and sometimes you run into NPCs throughout the dungeon, and there's a few places that are a town, in like the loosest sense of the term, I guess. Anyways, so as this game was one of the last few SNES games released by Atlas, I guess Super Famicom, it does actually look pretty nice, and there's a lot of really good UI stuff. Like, this is a very clean equipment screen, a lot of screens blend into one another. You don't have to go through your comp menu right here to get to a lot of important screens like you did with the previous games. You can actually access the map just by doing the shoulder buttons, which had to be hacked into SMT1 by fans later on. It's not actually a part of the base game. And also you can easily access your equipment screen and all that, I think, just by hitting X on the SNES controller, the Super Famicom controller, whatever. I'm just going to say SNES because that's what I know it as. Anyways, you're going to see me here changing the auto mapping to be fixed instead of rotating One thing that abso-fucking-lutely drove me nuts about SMT1 is the fact that, as far as I know, you can't change the map to be fixed. At least I feel like I would have known about it when I did that Let's Play. But yeah, basically what it means is that up on the map, by default, is always the direction you're facing, which is a terrible, terrible way to read any map, in my opinion. Give me my true north, south, east, and west, please. So yeah, we're currently in Daedalus Tower, the starting area of the game. And, we're just gonna get a few gameplay tips here from the NPCs. There's a healer. Classic SMT style. Unlike future games in the series, we don't have to worry about alignment or anything like that when we're healing. In fact, we actually don't need to worry about alignment at all. There is one path through this game. Alignment is not even really a consideration. Oh, hey. Let's just get the fuck out of there. That's a bad podcast. Oh, just kidding. Let's go in there. So this is the Cathedral of Shadows. It works exactly as it does in the rest of the games in the series. If you're somehow watching this and you're not familiar with other SMT games, basically whenever we get around to recruiting demons, we're going to be going into that Cathedral of Shadows to fuse them together and create even more powerful demons. Only problem being that this game, being the first game in the series, not a lot of demons to really choose from. And in fact, a lot of the demons we'll be running into you can't even recruit at all because they're not really sentient creatures, so that's kind of a shame. And just like real life, the elevator never works when you need it to. Actually, at my work, we had an incident where the elevator stopped working and someone got stuck inside for a hot minute there, and that was kind of a thing. Fun fact, when I was a child, I mean, I was afraid of a lot of things that were really dumb looking back as a child, but, like, I definitely was, I was totally afraid of elevators as a kid, because it's like, yo, I'm on, like, the 8th story, what the fuck would happen if this thing just, like, dropped right now? Also, I'm just kind of browsing the item shops right now, and we are going to, I'll talk about that later, actually, but first, this is the Village Elder. This is your save point. Just whenever you get to a new town, go find the old dude in this nice, weird Prince of Persia-esque room, and he will save your game for you. Okay, so here's where I'm going to talk about how much of a dumbass I am. So, that SMT1 playthrough I did, I know my shit around SMT1 pretty well. This game, this is only like my 3rd playthrough of it, really. Only, I guess most people probably only play this once or twice and then never again, but I digress. So, me being the fucking genius that I am was like, yo, instead of, like, buying things with this $500 free Maka that I got, what if I just, like, go into the dungeon with no armor or weapons and I save up for the really good shit and just, you know, bypass the fact that and we get a nice warning before delving into the dungeon proper, which is good. But yeah, I was like, why not just see if we can try farming for the good shit right away using no equipment whatsoever. Does not go well in my favor, but we'll see that when the time comes. But yeah, as you can see, this game does look pretty damn good, all things considered. I really like what they do with the, just the different tile sets and whatnot that they're working with. This area is called the Tower of Daedalus, I think I referenced before, and, like, it really does have that, like, mechanical, look, you know, just playing off the mythology and whatnot. Sometimes we'll find this, graffiti here, by the way. Not here particularly, but just throughout the dungeon we'll run into walls that have little tidbits and, hints spray painted on by some random creature. So here's our first enemy. Of course, as with any RPG of this time period, we gotta start with a bunch of, like, weird goopy, wormy looking things, have tendrils, and overall just look unpleasant. And I'm gonna try my hardest to fucking punch this thing to death with my 2 characters. As you can see, that shit ain't working out. But here's the honest to God secret about this video game. Most people don't reference. So as would be referenced in many later games in the series, we get to the river Styx when we die, and we have the option of either crossing, or we can be restored back to life. And if you accept, that shit just backs up. And backs up. And now we're back to right in front of the old man save room. So technically in this game, you can, like, never game over. Like, as long as... Actually, no, because I'm pretty sure you can just never game over. Basically, the penalty for dying is that whatever your Maka is will just be reduced down to half its current amount. Maybe your Magnetite too. I think it might just be your Maka, actually. And here's just a straight up snake that's in here. But essentially, if you just keep going at it and you don't care about not having money, this game is pretty easy, honestly, just because there's no real penalty for going too far ahead and failing. You don't have to reload your save, you don't have to lose any progress, no, nothing like that. Which is weird, because you feel like that's a thing that is fairly uncommon of a game of this type, and also we beat up the snake, which is good. And we got enough experience points to level up twice, which is pretty cool here. I guess I should explain my character builds. Basically, for each character, I'm going to be focusing on 3 stats. For both of them, Vitality and Speed, because they are must-haves for your max HP and your turn order. And then for Yumiko, since she learns magic, she is going to be the one who I'm putting intellect into, and Nakajima is going to be someone I'm putting strength into. Though actually for this playthrough, I do focus probably a bit more than I should on strength for Yumiko, just because she does get some cool multi-hit weapons, though they aren't the most powerful thing in the world, but early to mid-game they do help a lot, just because they hit a lot, and for larger groups of enemies in particular, it can be really nice just having those multi-hit attacks do a decent amount of damage. We got a set of spells already here. I'm actually going to, right now on the screen, just real quickly flash the formula for how you get new spells in this game. Basically, there's a formula that you can plug in all of your stats into for Yumiko. And when you reach a new whole number, you gain a new spell. I think up to like 12 or 13 spells she gets. I'm not entirely sure. But basically, yeah, your intellect and I think your luck, but less so, are the things that determine when you get... And we're just getting destroyed by zombies here. But yeah, you can always escape. Running is always an option. No harm in that. But yeah, the 3 things that really determine Yumiko's spell learning are her level, her intellect, and her luck score. Honestly, luck in this game seems pretty useless. Like, I'm sure there's a few uses like there are in every other game in this series, but honestly, I've kind of avoided it every playthrough, and I've been fine. I think it kind of does the thing that it does in a lot of other games, where it kind of helps you deflect or not get hit by status effects and other ailments like that. There are a few enemies later on in the game that straight up just level you down, and yeah, this is when I decided to bite the bullet and just get the shitty starter equipment. My plan to cheese the early game by just getting the good shit right away just completely backfired, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna play honest. So yeah, fuck me, right? But, you know, you can't blame a guy for trying. But yeah, where was I? I was talking about weapons, or leveling up, or... Oh yeah, what I was talking about is that later on in the game, we're gonna run into fucking terrible enemies that will just level you down and actually cause you to lose stat points. And I think your luck score helps prevent against that, even though those attacks are pretty rare. It is kind of an inevitable thing in this game that you're just gonna be losing some levels at certain points. That really fucking sucks. That is just a thing that I think has been left behind for good and no one misses from 90s RPGs. I know that I'm I never got super far into it, but I know Baldur's Gate in particular, there are enemies that will just spam level down skills until the game becomes unplayable, and like you just straight up need to reload an old save, because there are enemies in the final dungeon and shit that can level you down all the way to like the start of the game type stats or whatever, which is just fucking ridiculous. It's such a weird thing. Honestly, like, I think that's one thing that me getting into tabletop RPGs has really led me to appreciate over the years, is just the fact that there's a lot of stuff inherent to like old school RPG game design from back in the pen and paper days that are kind of designed with the idea that there's like a human input or like human component to it controlling everything and kind of playing the part of a I almost said refugee, referee, if you will, and kind of making sure things don't get completely overbearing or, you know, like aren't completely too harsh or whatever. And then when you put all of that up to the judgment of an algorithm that just wants to, you know, challenge players and is partially randomized and will just constantly spam the best shit it has over and over again to do its job, which is killing the player, it can get a little out of hand, and that's kind of why into the 2000s, I'd even say late 90s, you really start to see JRPGs and Western RPGs in particular branching out and kind of leaving behind a lot of those tabletop influences, sometimes for the worse and sometimes for better. But yeah, enough about that. Just, you know, equipping shit. Yeah, we got a dagger for Nakajima here. He's still going naked, no armor or anything, so he's gonna be kind of a squishy boy for a little bit here, but that's okay. Healing in this game is generally cheap. I do believe that if you have a severe status effect, there's actually a pretty significant bump up in the price of that, and of course, revives are also a lot more expensive, so there'll be times, probably in this Let's Play, where I have a dead demon and I just need to wait a bit to revive them, just because I don't want to spend the cash. But there are also ways to get rich quick in this game, which I'll also highlight when the time comes. Man, I don't know if it's coming across, but I'm just really excited to fucking get back in the saddle and play this game to the point that I'm jumping the gun a bit, which I know I have a habit of doing when I'm trying to fill time or, you know, talk over footage like this, but it feels oddly nostalgic being here and looking at a first-person dungeon crawler in my tiny Sony Vegas window, recording with a microphone, and just kind of looking at the Audacity graph up to the side. And this foe might look a little familiar, probably sound more familiar, I should say. Hacketts Design definitely changed over the years. In this, it's just a weird yellow frog thing. And it would become much more adorable later on, but right now it's just kind of generic monster. And actually, that's one thing in this game in particular. This was before, I believe the first game is before Kaneko. Yeah, actually, I know that for a fact. It was before Kaneko's involvement with the series. So we do get, not the worst, but I'd say fairly generic, fairly standard JRPG enemy designs. And not much in the way of character designs, but that being said, there also isn't much in the way of characters in this game, so... what can you say? Showing off a little bit of negotiation here. And for those of you wondering, yes, by him, he does mean Lucifer. Something that's also kind of nice about this game, just with how simple its plot is just straight up, right off the bat, we know that our objective is to just go into this dungeon and kill Lucifer. Whereas in, like, you know, a lot of the later games, it's like, oh, who is this mysterious blonde fellow that totally is Lucifer, but we're gonna act like he isn't, you know, all this other shit. But yeah, there's something to be said about just having no real twists or turns and just having one hardcore dedicated objective to follow. you know, it's a very retro way of telling a story, especially given that stories like that were told mostly because of limitations at the time. It was, you know, you could only fit so much on a NES card or whatever, but, you know, that's just kind of how it went. I actually can't think of too many RPGs these days that have that type of, you know, just completely straightforward, you know who the bad guy is when you start the game type of story. Just not anymore. Even shorter games, I can't think of any where you just straight up know who the bad guy is right away or anything. They're all, you know, filled with more intrigue nowadays. And yeah, this is I believe the second time already this video we've seen our good pal Karan. I've still never learned how to pronounce that properly, and I feel like every time I pronounce it one way, I get someone who is like, you fucking idiot, it's the other way, and I go, oh shit, fuck me. So I'm just gonna say it how I do. I'm pretty sure it's not Karen, but I also could be completely wrong. I'm fine with being wrong, it's okay. Someone correct me down below. See, I'm gonna say that, and there's gonna be like 4 comments, and they're all gonna contradict each other. It's gonna be great. I hope y'all aren't sick of this room, by the way. Because, yeah, we've definitely been seeing it a lot. Also, something pretty cool about starting the game at the top of a tower and going downward. Because that leads me to believe that as we enter the mound, we're not technically entering a dungeon per se, like we're actually entering into a whole new dimension that is the demon world, and like the gateway just happens to be the top of a tower in the demon world. Like beyond these walls, I like to think that there isn't like rock and shit, there's like actual sky, like we are in a building in another dimension right now. That's kind of my take on it. Because I don't even think they really say much about like, oh, it's, you know, underground or anything. They just kind of say, oh, it's the demon world, so. The Expansivemokkai, whatever you want to call it. I think I brought it up already earlier in the video, but if you click the map button twice, you not only see... Well, when you click the map button once, it brings you just the view of your current floor and all of the tiles that you've explored so far. And also, I'm just going to warn you right away, I am a map completionist in first-person dungeon crawling RPGs, so if you see me backtracking solely for the purpose of filling in space, I'm sorry if that annoys y'all, but I'm just a little bit of a 100% completionist type when it comes to maps. I like having everything charted out, even spaces I know are just, you know, nothing. But yeah, let's get some fucking armor, finally, so we can stop dying. But yeah, as I was saying, if you click the map button twice, you do get to see just a giant map, or I don't even know if I'd call it a map, but kind of like a floor guide almost of the entirety of the game, leading all the way to the Infinii Palace, which is the final area of the game where Lucifer is at, which is pretty cool stuff. I kind of actually like when games give you, like, even if it's not particularly concrete, and even, honestly, I kind of prefer when it's not concrete, but in longer games like JRPGs especially, I really enjoy being able to see how much of the game I've beaten, or at least have like a general marker of my progress. Because, you know, one thing I think that is a strong suit of RPGs, and I guess long games in particular in general, is just the fact, oh, look at this fucking Birdman. We're gonna beat the shit out of Harvey, you just wait. But I just like that general sense of progress and the idea that I'm getting somewhere with all of the time and hours I'm putting in, and kind of having, I guess going back to what I was talking about before, about just the nostalgia of knowing your end goal and never deviating from that. I guess we're not beating up Harvey, I'm sorry, I talked shit. We're just fucking dead, and Yumiko's about to be dead. Hopefully this goes well. Yumiko's a little bit sturdier than Nakajima. No, I should have probably healed here, but I went for the kill, and I got it, so can't complain, I suppose. And we leveled up, which is nice. You know, one thing, actually, I know I'm, like, kind of, I think I'm in, like, a tangent within a tangent. I'm kind of doing that Russian nesting doll thing, but, one thing I will say is in the past few years, I've really gotten over the thing that I think a lot of RPG players have, where they get really frustrated when a character dies and then their EXP and like levels between their party become super uneven. Honestly, I'm just kind of the opinion, it's like, hey, let it rock, let characters be different, kind of, you know, come up naturally with those reasonings as to why certain characters are more powerful than each other, and I don't know, I guess I just find it a little bit more endearing and kind of fun and unique to have some characters in my party that are just better than others, and not having everyone be at that even power level. I sometimes like having a character or two that's just absurdly good, and a few that maybe I need to treat like a liability sometimes. I'm just at a point in my life, I guess, playing these games where I find value in kind of having those experiences when they come up. But I do also get to the people who are, you know, really, really stressed out about making sure all their numbers line up and stuff. I definitely think that there's a lot of players for whom RPGs appeal to them for that reason in particular, and I do wish that maybe there were more options in games that still rewarded dead characters with EXP, but I don't know. I kind of like having that uneven distribution sometimes because it can lead to some fun party layouts and stuff, and, you know, you can kind of headcanon it to be funny. And that's really what we're all here for at the end of the day. Like, right now, Yumiko is currently surrounded by 3 mudslugs and getting her ass kicked, which I don't know how that looks, but it creates a pretty good image in the mind's eye. And once again, we are going for another boat ride. Might as well just call this fucking episode Waterworld at this point. Oh god, actually, like... Yo, so if, like, you took a screenshot of the screen, like, right at that boat, like, you could totally convince someone that it was, like, a Super Nintendo remake of that Virtual Boy Waterworld game, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. And also, as you can see, Nakajima's starting to catch up, but still a level behind Yumiko, but that's okay. I remember I was talking about something before the level up inequality thing that I can't even remember right now. I think it was just the fact that I like having a barometer of my sense of progress, so I probably didn't have too much more to say about that. These gnomes are really fucking annoying, by the way, especially because they can cast Zan, which is a multi-hit attack in this game. And there is a lot of similarities in terms of spells and stuff, which you'll see. Like, as you can see, Dia is still a healing spell, like it is in the later games to come. But there's some other spells that work maybe a little bit differently than some of y'all might think they do if you've played later SMT games. I'll, once again, be sure to highlight those as they appear. But yeah, you see we've already made progress one video in. We're 2 floors down, and these gnomes that previously kept kicking our ass are now easily, well, I'm not going to say easily, but they're beatable. I mean, they could have all decided to cast Zan at once and we'd be dead, but they didn't. See? Everybody wins. Except for the gnomes. I want that chainmail so fucking bad. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed barely getting any progress into this game. I will be back next time, and maybe we'll get more than 1 floor in. Have a good one.